Hey Steelers Nation, one thing that's very important to me is when I'm watching shows from people who do predictions before the game is do they come back and be accountable to them after the game. And this was obviously Tomlin's worst loss at home during his era, and I called for the win. But I'm going to go through the parts that the Steelers did wrong, the one glaring reason to have massive faith and hope moving forward for the rest of the season and not to burn the whole village down, and kind of go through the major predictions I made through the last week, see what came to pass and what didn't. But the reality is this entire San Francisco 49ers defense is built to stop the first 5 yards of attack. They're built to stop the run against them and to stop quick little screen passes, and that's what they're really good at. And if the Steelers want to try to do end arounds, wide receiver screens, we will fail. It will not work against them. That is my prediction of this game. You know, watching the San Francisco 49ers defense, it's very obvious that they were built to attack the first 5 yards. It's how they have been since their inception under Shanahan, and certainly how they were when they were the best team of the year last year in defense. And what do we do here? On the second play of the game, we try doing an end around and get behind the sticks. And in fact, that was the consistency. The Steelers at no point attacked them downfield. How do you beat the Niners first and foremost? You protect and you push it downfield. It might be a little bit easier without Bosa, but even if Bosa is here, you trust in Moore to cover the edge, which he was a better pass protector last year than Steelers give him credit for. At the end of the day, pushing this ball downfield. And as a result of the inability / desire to throw the ball downfield, the Steelers really did not give them a chance offensively at all. Now, our one glaring reason for hope that we'll get to later in this episode does address that. But the problem is, in-game, when we talk about Tomlin's desire to make in-game adjustments, it didn't happen. And the reason I found that particularly interesting is that's exactly what he talked about in his pregame interview on the radio, was how him and Kenny make in-game adjustments to turn the ship, yet they never push the ball downfield in a meaningful way, except for what they believed was the broken play chucked to Kenny or to George Pickens, and that obviously didn't come to pass. And really, that 2-minute drive was the only offense we had the entire game. And I know I harp on this a lot, but I do it because it's true. Kenny Pickett is a much better quarterback during the 2-minute drive. What is the glaring difference during the 2-minute no huddle situations versus the in huddle? Canada's not in his ear. Kenny calls his own plays during that period. And when you see success versus not success, literally didn't have a first down the entire first quarter, the vast majority of the second quarter, until he goes no huddle. That's kind of an elephant in the room, and the glass ceiling of the Steelers that unfortunately has never broken and ain't gonna break until you deport the Canadian. That's just the way that it is. Now, on the happier note, we did predict some things that did come to pass. TJ and Cam should have a wrecking ball, and I predicted each of them will get at least 1 sack today. TJ Watt was a force in this game defensively. He did make some amazing and great things happen, and you absolutely have to love that when you see Watt come out on fire. Now, we did say during the video that, you know, they have the best left tackle in football, and Highsmith's probably not going to be a big factor. And Watt's the one who stepped up and made up the difference. And that is something that is tremendously beneficial and important. What was massively a problem, and this one might actually linger, guys. This one could be real. Ogunjobi got whipped around, and so did Adams. Our run defense, especially at the middle, was horrendous. There were plays where Adams got moved by 3 gaps, which to be here only as a nose tackle, the first responsibility is don't get moved. And to get him whipped around is horrendous. And same thing was true with Ogunjobi. Yeah, Benton was better, but Benton wasn't good. So when we look at that run defense, this is now going to be the Steelers of 2 to 3 years ago when we're going to get tested running up the middle, especially when Cam is not on the field. And we saw that regularly. And then once San Francisco had the Steelers cheating the linebackers to attack the middle, that was partially how the big run to the outside took off where McCaffrey got a 65-yard touchdown. So if the run defense isn't able to stop people and they get blown around, that is a fundamental failure that is unrectifiable regardless of who you play. And we're about to play the Browns, who have one of the best offensive lines, and I guarantee you when I do my prediction show, it's going to be tested. So as we look at the rest of the defensive schemes of failures, they never pressured Purdy from a schematical standpoint. From a secondary perspective, they played soft zones and allowed receivers to go underneath them. They played a fear of getting thrown over the top. And as I said, Brock Purdy can't throw the ball over the top. And Purdy, by his nature, is not an accurate quarterback. He needs those extra yards after the catch because they don't throw the ball very far down with him. Secondarily, he's not a quick processor, he's not accurate, and he's a little bit of a gunslinger who doesn't care if he has turnovers. When you throw pressure in the mix, it doesn't work out. It was completely playing to the strengths of the 49ers. He's a very good timing and short yardage passer. That's what Purdy is, and that's literally what the Steelers gave him. As an opposition, you are supposed to take away what makes it easy on them, not give it to them. And in both sides of the ball, that is 100% what the Steelers did. And it's not like I have a magical crystal ball. I'm watching the exact same game film as anyone else in the NFL that wants the all 22 in the coaches tape. This isn't mind-blowing knowledge. They play the ball on defense for the first 5 yards. On offense, they throw the ball basically within the first 5 yards and outrun you. They don't go over the top, and they don't really try to exploit you. They just beat you with simple things, have you over-execute, and then they cut you on a gash. That 65-yard touchdown was the result of the middle of the offensive line destroying our defensive line, and long story short, all the linebackers and secondaries over-pursuing to the middle of the field and a cutout lane for McCaffrey to go. I mean, at the end of the day, that is the schematical reason that play works, because of the prior execution and strength. The strength of the Niners is their defensive front, and the lateral running was never going to work. And when we didn't throw the ball past the sticks regularly on the routine passing plays, there was no opportunity to open it up. This was watching a complete and utter disaster, and it makes you wonder if Candid is capable of making a game plan that doesn't play directly into the strengths when they were obvious. It wasn't like San Francisco brought out new and exotic stuff. They did exactly what they did last year, and the Steelers were like, here, just crush us. We did it on both sides of the ball. So I can't say this is just a Canada thing. That's a coaching-wide complete disaster failure. Now here is the reason for optimism at Steelers Nation into it. And I get that this is cutting hairs, but when you look at Kenny Pickett's face, this is not the same as how he normally looks. He was fighting something, and I don't mean something as in like trying not to get sacked by Joey Bosa. He was sick or something. You know, I don't know exactly what it was. I do know there was a sickness going around the city, but hopefully it was just that, and that's what threw off his timing, because all game long, his accuracy was off in a way that we did not see during camp, and a way that we did not see during the preseason. And it is unusual to have someone who has been in the NFL environment before to be off that much without a reason. And if the reason was he was sick, thrown off, body clock, whatever, well, then that makes sense. You know, okay, it's unfortunate, doesn't fix the game plan that was drawn up, but at least is a reason for hope to move forward. And the same thing is true with a game plan. They get altered week to week. You know, sometimes you're going to try things and they just don't work, especially in week one. All right, sure, worst loss in a Tomlin era. No one's fighting that. I certainly was optimistic, but given the reality of how it went down, it's something that won't necessarily have to linger, with the exception of that defensive front. Ogunjobi either needs to get replaced or healed, and I don't think Adams is an NFL player anymore. And what used to be the depth of this team 2.5 weeks ago now looks like the liability of the defense. That is massively concerning. And when we're about to play Cleveland Browns, they're going to get tested, and we need to figure this out. So Steelers Nation, obviously we all wish it was a happier note to be reporting on. I do feel it's incredibly important as a listener and as a broadcaster to review your predictions and your projections. And that's what this episode was. So you know that when I talk about in the future, there's grains of truth to it, and there's elements, and this is what I get right and what isn't, and I'll be accountable to you every week following the game. And as always, Steelers Nation, here we go, Steelers, here we go. In the top left corner is going to be all three of our videos about the 49ers. The bottom left corner is Local Football Flavor, my gambling channel.